Starting again. I just spilled some drink. It's all clean now. So this morning we're just going to revisit the training zones as an introductory ride because I'm still in recovery mode. Only scored about 0.6 on the status scale, but I've got plenty of strain in hand over tolerance. It's like 18 to 25 or something, which means I can do some work, but not a heck of a lot. So we'll choose a route. We'll choose the Volcano Flat, and when you're ready, here we go. Choose the flat. Choose the flat. Start the workout. 3, 2, 1. Click. And then we're into the Zwift program, loading its world, the world of Watopia, no less. So I've done this one before, but I'm doing it again because this morning I don't know if you can see, I've got the heart rate monitor on. It's taking ECG data all the time, and I'll be sending it back tomorrow in the post, getting a report probably by the end of the week. So in my bottle today is Kinetica strawberry whey powder and water. Just reading the screen. Welcome to Zwift 101 Cycling. I seem to have done that a number of times. I'm in the small ring too, which makes things easier. I will change around in the gears, no doubt. Over the next 4 workouts you will learn. Of course I will. I've been doing it for about 8 years almost. But there we are. I'm doing the best. And then finally cotton on top like that. I'm not very strong, not very young. Reasonably fit for my age, but a little bit unhealthy at the moment. So 65 watt warm up, we can handle that. I'm wearing the Firefighters charity t-shirt today. Firefighters cycling jersey actually, from some of the sponsored riding that I did, earning money for them. I think the longest one was probably 75 miles in Norfolk. That was a few years ago now. And although I'm currently riding for Willand Hospice, which is our local hospice, I've still got a soft spot for parts of the fire service, even though I've been retired a long time, and even though some of them are very mean to me, especially as after retirement, as I've spoken to virtually nobody since. But there we are, that's how it is. So we're on the top end of the boulevard now. I'm just about to turn left into it, Ocean Boulevard. It goes underwater in a tunnel, and if you've not seen it before, welcome to Zwift. You may be able to hear a bit of noise from the fan, but it's quite quiet. So now we're ramping up to a little bit more, 80 watts. Now if I don't pedal any faster, the pedals just get harder to push. So when we're changing powers, I tend to try and raise the cadence, pedal a few more revs a minute, and then gradually as we warm up, I can get above 70, or 71 at the moment. 80 would be good, 90 would be better. I don't feel excessively strong today, but I feel fit enough to do this, and that's what we're doing. 85 volts now. So as soon as you put the extra pedal stroke in, it jumps to 95, and then the computer gets a grip and smooths out the power, makes it harder if you're fast and easier if you're slow, depending on what's required of the workout. These little orange thumbs, as I click on that, that's called a ride on. It gives a thumbs up to another rider, and he will see the blue thumb icon like that, and the blue descending from the sky and dropping into his back pocket of his jersey. And some popular ones, popular riders that is, are riding around with stuffed jerseys. I've not seen anybody yet today, but I got that one ride on already. And here we go downhill, so you can put a lot of effort in downhill because the gravity assist is quite useful. Trouble is, we overpower as soon as we do. And then if you watch the numbers, you'll see it evens out. I'm so used to doing this route that that's normally that little downhill bit there where I put some effort in and see what speed I can get by the time we get to the bottom. And recently, it's just been about 50 kilometres an hour. Didn't used to be. Not many months ago, it was only 40. So there is some improvement. But it's one step forwards, two steps back at the moment. And we're hoping that in 4 weeks' time I'll be able to do the Willand Hospice ride in Zwift at the Firefighters Rehab Centre in Littlehampton, at a place called Marine Court. I've got a week's rest and recuperation booked there, and I shall be taking my bike and computer, and we'll try and do the ride on the day with everybody else. I'll be doing it virtually, and I'll post the video afterwards, just with several images of me at different stages to show that I've completed it. It's not ultimate proof, of course, but it should be good enough. I don't think this phone would do a 3.5 hour video without running out of battery and storage space. But that's still to be decided. Yeah, so zone 1, as I just mentioned there, is about recovery, which means that you don't stress your heart at all in recovery mode, in recovery sector, I would say, recovery zone as it's called, and your heart rate is generally less than 50% of your max. My heart rate at the moment is 89, which is a little bit higher than half of 160, but there we are. Some would argue that 160 is a bit conservative, but at my age, almost 73, my maximum heart rate now is probably in the 150s. I don't test it on a regular basis, and obviously since I've had these issues with the ticker, which is probably down to atrial fibrillation, but not necessarily, which is why I'm wearing the ECG for 3 days. And it will be posted back for analysis tomorrow. Around about 4 o'clock, because my 72 hours is up at 3 o'clock, and I'll get it off to the post office and get it sent back. So 70 watts is very easy. Two in the small ring. I can go to the big ring and it will just alter the power setting in the computer, but I wouldn't feel any different, so there's probably no point. In the top right you can probably see there's not much in the way of elevation. There's a little bit of an incline up and then down a couple of times, but it's really a fairly flat route. It doesn't matter of course for this session because this is already pre-programmed. But I've selected that one so that afterwards, if I want to round up the numbers over time, I've got a flat room to do it on. Now this next section up to the arch is normally a bit of a dell, but for me today in this session, I do like to call them workouts, but I prefer to call it a session. It's just flat for me because the computer's controlling the resistance. Right. You might just see this heart rate monitor flashing green, and the ECG should be flashing green, and the green on the bottom, we haven't really got any yet. The grey is recovery zone, blue is the endurance zone, and then we've got green and yellow and blue, various shades of red, which I very rarely see, except in a few seconds bursts when required. Or when commanded. 20 seconds in this sector. No, 3 minutes at 90. Now the whole point of going back to basics and pedaling at such low power rates is to get the body used to being moving again, pedaling again, changing powers. Because after a burnout, or whatever it was, you're really starting again. Now I've been doing this for quite a long time, and today my numbers get closer to Strava from Zwift, and in Strava this is week 139, or to be more accurate, streak of 139, which means for 139 weeks I've done at least 30 kilometres a week, and usually a lot more. Now there's no prizes for a long streak, really, but it does give you swifter access to the higher levels in the game, because every week with an unbroken streak you'll be credited with 500 experience points, and they count towards your next level. It's about 9,200 points per level at the moment. I'm just over halfway between 78 and 79, and 500 points is worth the equivalent of 25 kilometres. So the kilometres still hook up as real, but the points that go with them get enhanced, and eventually that could get you up another level or two if you cycle long enough with an unbroken streak. So that's what I'm going for, an unbroken streak, 139 today, and that's over 3 years worth. So in spite of all my issues, problems, illnesses, I've managed to do at least 30k a week in the last 3.5 years or whatever, the last 139 weeks. So 2.5 weeks now. 50, 104, 156, yeah, well, 2.5 years at least. I've been cycling since 2017, inside. In 2018, on the 1st of January, I pulled my bike out of the shed and started road riding, and then joined Strava. My first charity was the Firefighters charity, this one, and the first event was called My 75 Miles. Now you could choose to ride it, hop it, walk it, run it, and the mileage was cumulative, the aim being to get to 75 miles. Now obviously if you can do 10k a day, it only takes less than a fortnight. So I'd done that pretty quickly, and then I had to decide what to do next. Now I didn't have Zwift at that time, because it was back in 2018, so I just had the road rides with my old heavy steel bike from Dawes in Shipley that I bought in 1996. Might have been 95, but about there. And I wanted a lighter bike, obviously, with only one along. So it was still in tip-top condition. I couldn't really warrant spending a lot of money on a new bike. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make sure I've done at least 1,000 miles on this bike. That's the old bike, the steel one, before I use anything newer and lighter. Anyway, luck would have it, it was the Tour de Yorkshire cycle race, and I went up there and I ended up buying an aluminium bike, a Specialized Diverge, and I rode it for the first time that summer in the 75 mile, what was it called? 75 miles, oh, brain's gone. Anyway, there was an event in Norfolk. It wasn't the Tour de Broads, I did that separately. But something like that. There we go, 110 now for 3 minutes. We can manage that. So that was how I got started, really. And then, having got a medal for the 75 miles sportive, I decided to do a few more. I mean, I started at 50 in Milton Keynes with the local cycling group, and I did a 75 with them, 75k that was. I found that quite hard, but it went okay. And then I did various other ones, mostly in Norfolk, because I was living on the boat at the time, in Lowestoft, which is in Suffolk obviously, but it's just across the border, and it was very convenient for staying over before and after a cycle event. Talking too much, the power's dropping. So we did that. Zone 3 like this is supposed to be increasing all the good enzymes in my muscles. Okay, find the muscle. How long have you got? I'd like to change up again. Alright, in fact, I need to go to the big ring now. Oh, that's better. Into to reduce power, a luxury. But I'm not really getting faster really, because I'm quite used to endurance riding. I just don't have the strength or the stamina. My legs have been terrible. I mean, last week alone, the calves would scream at me. Quads weren't too bad, they'd just be weak. And then on some days, I'd be going upstairs, and after the first step, this spontaneous fatigue kicked in. And by the time I got to the top of the stairs, about 13, 14 steps, I was gasping. Anyway, that's a symptom from one of the heart issues, which has not been properly diagnosed yet. And today, it's not there. So we're hoping it's a thing of the past. And the thing about, to give it its proper name, paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, is that it can be spontaneous and it can resolve on its own. It's basically to do with the electrical connectivity across the surface of the heart. It makes your heart fill and contract and pump blood. Now, if it got serious, there are things that can be done. There's always a drug, isn't there? But there's also a thing called ablation, which basically just destroys the nodes on the heart wall to stop them being, shall we say, waypoints in the electrical path. I don't fancy that. That's called ablation. So we're obviously doing everything we can to get fit, stay fit, get healthy and stay healthy. And it's been a bit of a journey. And we're still on it. Give this other chap a ride on. There we go. Now, you can't give ride-ons in these workouts unless somebody sends you one, and then you can return it if you quit. And some people like receiving them. I generally have it turned off so I don't see them. But yeah, it's a nice thought. Oh, we're going in the gravel now towards the volcano, so on a normal day you'd be able to hear the gravel crunching and you'd be able to feel the vibration in the pedals when the flywheel basically gets a bit jittery to represent gravel. Oh, here we go, 130. 2 minutes. So the reason it's saying I could hold this for an hour is because my functional threshold power, known as FTP, is only 136. So if I can do 136 longer than an hour, I can obviously do 130 watts in 2 minutes. Need a drink now. Unfortunately, it doesn't work as fast as sugar, but I do need quite a bit of protein at my age. And there's a lot of scientific debate now as to just how much. And given some of the videos, I might even be overdoing it. Swapping protein for fat is fairly easy. I'm on less than 50 grams a day of carbs. Been doing that since the end of April, beginning of May. And I think that probably contributed to get me so run down and untrained. I don't know if it contributed to the weird blood tests, but we shall see. 2 seconds to go now at 130. And in fact it went down to 122 there. Probably shows that I was in excess of the basic requirement there. We're back down to zone 1. You can see on the bottom now there's a fair old sprinkling of green and blue on the left and yellow with little bits of pink in the middle where I've overspeeded. Another gear actually, 70 watts. The computer do the work, I'll just pedal. So as you can see, the training zones are all mapped out on the left of the screen. I'm in the 3 minutes at 70 watts at the moment. Next one is 5, but it's only for 30 seconds. So what I generally do is when the banner or the arch is approaching, I put a little bit of effort in so I can cross the line at least at the power required, and I can ease off a little bit. and then I can get to the end every 30 seconds knowing that I've completed it properly. I've not spent 10-15 seconds speeding up or slowing down. At 70 watts, zone 1 recovery pace, and you can do that virtually all day once you're used to it. The lungs and the heart should be not under any particular stress for that. My heart at the moment is at 97, and the recovery rate riding is usually under 100 beats for me. My resting heart rate at the moment is 40. Lowest overnight was 30 something, 38 I think last night. And that's fairly normal, but it's usually lower. The lowest recorded this last month was 35 beats a minute during sleep. Sometimes it's because you're quite fit. Other times it's because you're quite unfit. And there's a professional term for that. When your heart rate stays down, there we go, I'm going to have to just interrupt. Well, it's called chronotropic incompetence. The heart's incompetence, not the others. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'll just get some gears up to this 150 watts that's coming now in a few seconds. And you see the higher you pedal, the further away the arch goes. Give me a good start. I can ease off now. My maximum power ever is in the 600s on the straight line. I'm doing 3 things at once. There we go, another right on one. And now we're back down to half that power. Nice. So now we get the recovery. 1 minute at 70, and then 3.5 minutes at various low powers to cool down. Now, I'm not particularly hot. There's a bead of sweat just starting to form. Nothing major. Needs a drink. I've been drinking that whilst I'm riding, is that when I finish, and the body's saying, what are you doing? Give me some energy. That might just be converted into a bit of extra muscle. It's a well balanced drink, with all the 9 amino acids in it, and it's essentially a good thing to drink. Some people abuse protein drinks, drink too many, too often. I don't do that. And I do use them to what I think is my best advantage. I'd be foolish to do otherwise. And yesterday I took a scoop of energy powder from Torque, TORQ, and it made the ride much easier. But of course, because the energy in that powder comes from maltodextrin and fructose, the evil enemy of the metabolic functions. And today I'm a little bit heavier, because rather than push it into my muscles as converted to glucose, I decided an easier route was to go down the portal vein and push it into my fat cells instead. So I gained some weight. Whether the overall gain masked the small decrease, I'll never know. Just slow down a bit, change down one. There we go. But that's how it is. We'll try things, and then some more, try some more things, and it's all geared to the same end. Just keep healthy enough to cycle regularly, a bit more than ticking over, quite a lot more than ticking over, but it's difficult. In 2017, I came out of hospital with one lung on the left which had a lump in it which they were monitoring, my right lung which had just been cut 25% away and some lymph nodes, and I was bandaged up, drugged up, and remained that way through November, and then December started to get fewer painkillers. The compression bandage came off. Oh, I really missed that. That was so comforting to have somebody squeezing your chest. Strange experience, but it was good, and when it went I felt a bit unloved. And then as December went on, I was missing riding. I had a little trainer in the conservatory which I used. It wasn't one like this. It was pretty much a dumb trainer. And here we go. Let's photograph that for the video purposes. I'm going to try and get those wheels turning again. That's hard. We call it a spiral of doom. Some call it a spiral of death. But once you've lost your inertia, getting that momentum back, it's quite tough. So now we're on, let's sort of see where we're coming to a downhill section up towards town. I think this is the reverse of the Italian village. I think so. So there we are. So there's downtown in front. Cycling up this road is the way towards what's called the Hilly Com, on being King of the Mountains, KOM. So that's 12k. I've done my half hour. I'm going to stop at the arch, given yesterday's performance not being so good. And if during the day I recover significantly, might do another small one later. And 35 kilometres an hour on the flat is actually quite good for me. There were days when I couldn't even get past 25, very recently, so I can confidently say I'm making some progress, but there's a long journey ahead. And finally, if you want to sponsor me on the London Hospice ride, I'll put the QR code in and the address. £1 would be brilliant, really great. And if enough people gave me £1, I'd happily give it to the London Hospice. If it came through my fundraising page run by npews.com, then they wouldn't even need to ask for it. It would just be sent to them every, I don't know, week or whatever, when the balance improved. 12.8. You can see why this is a bit addictive, can't you? Because having got to 12.8, you really don't want to stop before 14, especially if you've done over 50 metres, which is the minimum. Not minimum, but respectable minimum. Over 30 minutes, which is respectable. And 13k is also respectable, especially for a little old man like me without a full power lungs at the age of 72.9 years. And now this is downhill, so So because of that little effort, the heart rate went to 110, and now I've just got to under some low gears, get the heart rate down, and we can pack this one away. I thought it was 111, I'm not the word ill. I don't feel ill. I don't have any symptoms right now. Generally I don't have any symptoms. It's when the spontaneous fatigue sets in, which brings us back to where I left off. Chronotropic, what's the word? Incompetence. Chronotropic incompetence. It's when the heart can't raise its beats to do the work required that's been done, shall we say. So, if for example now I was riding along and the heart rate drops to about, I don't know, let's say 80, you could be forgiven for thinking you were suddenly super fit. And if your heart rate won't go above that, then obviously you're not. And that's what it's all about, chronotropic incompetence. Not like to praise myself, but there we are. And the other one, atrial fibrillation, has similar fatigue symptoms, as does diastolic dysfunction, of which I'm still at grade 1 and have been for 10 years. So, the lungs are more or less sorted. There's a new lump that was discovered in 2019, but they didn't tell me about it until 2 weeks ago. I'd already discovered it thanks to the heart scan and the calcium score. Right, 14.25, I think it's probably enough. 36. Yeah, we'll call it a draw there. And I've no way of knowing, but I just check it's still showing green. Yes, it is. No way of knowing whether that was good, bad or indifferent. But what I can do on this new watch is take an ECG right now and then just stop working, measure now, and this is what's called a one lead or a single lead ECG. You just have to remain still. Right, there were some abnormalities there. Heart rate variability down to 56, which is quite low. Overnight, your heart rate variability, when you're not doing any work, is generally quite high. Mine's usually well over 100, 120. When I was ill last week, I dropped to about 40. And then on the status, training status, I was given very poor, compromised, and in fact, I should drop it into the video. I was compromised again today, and then it changed to recovery, which is just below compromised, and tells you that you shouldn't be doing anything super intense, which of course I'm not. I was pedaling as if it was a sunny afternoon, sea on one side, beautiful flat tarmac in front of me, and it can be quite relaxing. And usually under the sea you get to see dolphins, rays, and the occasional whale, not to mention sunken ships. There's a few fish in it. these young kids whiz past. Good to see here, if you will. You've probably guessed by now that I've lost about 15. Because the other thing about recovery is that as long as it's light enough in terms of intensity, there's no problem doing a bit longer. And needless to say, I've got a lot of experience in recovery, having made poor decisions to do certain things that were too taxing. But right now, we're just getting the body used to being exercised again at a level. And when you come out of a heart operation, not that I'll be having one, I had my lung removed. There was an exercise bike outside my door in the ward. And it was a rock bike, and I rode that morning after my operation. No tension, just moving the pedals, circulating the blood, and all that. Starting again, I just spilled some drink, it's all clean now. So this morning we're just going to revisit the training zones as an introductory ride, because I'm still in recovery mode and only scored about 0.6 on the status scale. But I've got plenty of strain in hand over tolerance, it's like 18 to 25 or something, which means I can do some work, but not a heck of a lot. So we'll choose a route, we'll choose the Volcano Flat, and when you're ready, here we go. Choose the flat. Choose the flat. Start the workout. 3, 2, 1, click, and then we're into the Zwift program, loading its world, the world of Watopia, no less. So I've done this one before, but I'm doing it again because this morning I don't know if you can see, I've got the heart rate monitor on, it's taking ECG data all the time, and I'll be sending it back tomorrow in the post, getting a report probably by the end of the week. So in my bottle today is Kinetica strawberry whey powder and water. Just reading the screen. Welcome to Zwift 101 cycling. I seem to have done that a number of times. I'm in the small ring too, which makes things easier. I will change around on the gears, I've no doubt. Over the next 4 workouts you'll learn. Of course I will. Been doing it for about 8 years almost. But there we are. They're doing the best. And they've finally cottoned on to the fact that I'm not very strong, not very young, reasonably fit for my age, but a little bit unhealthy at the moment. So 65 watt warm up, we can handle that. I'm wearing the Firefighters charity t-shirt today. Well, Firefighters cycling jersey actually, from some of the sponsored riding that I did, earning money for them. I think the longest one was probably 75 miles in Norfolk. Oh, it's a few years ago now.